and let him take it away. And Bill, you got, up to 50, 55 minutes if you want to take it. Okay, Bill?
All right, I'm unmuted, right? Okay.
Muted, yes, sir.
So I'll speak right up till 9, right?
That'd be fine. People drop off. That's their loss if they drop off.
Their loss, and they're allowed to go. My name is Bill, and I'm alcoholic.
Hi, Bill.
My sober date is January 3rd, 1970. I've always had a group. I've always had a sponsor. Some of my longtime friends are already logged into this meeting to keep me honest. My lawyer from Florida is logged in.
How many is that?
My bride is also logged in, so it's going to be a good meeting for everybody. I took my first drink vested to serve a Roman Catholic funeral in a Catholic church. I was 12. It was my first Mass. Just before Mass started, we were on the altar boy side, and there's a little circle of 5 of us, and the decanter of Christian Brothers Gold wine was passed around the circle. Everybody took a slug. I took a slug. It went around the circle again, got back to me, and I took a slug guzzle. Those of you who are heavy drinkers know what a slug guzzle is. Maybe 8, 10 ounces altogether. This is what happened. Now, I'm a birth defect child. I was born with a full bilateral left cleft palate. A lot of kids that are born with that do not survive the birth. I was lucky. I had medical parents who got me through that first week. I was closed at the age of 3 months, and I was completely reconstructed at the age of 15. So I've had a very good result. But back then, I was the ugly duckling. People would pick on me in school, call me names, drag me through mud puddles. I was short. I was about 1.5 feet tall until I got to the 6th grade. And I sounded different than everybody else because my speech wasn't quite right. Those things were bouncing around inside my head until this first drink event. All of that went away. Got bulked, erased. Only visited when I do this, or if I'm sponsoring a man through the 5th step, or if I'm talking to people getting ready to go make an amends in 9, because it was a miraculous thing that happened to me when all that went away because of taking the alcohol. Now, I didn't become homeless and fall down and all the rest of it. That day, it took about 10, 11 years to become chronic. I was in the music business for many years, and I did it drinking and I did it sober. It's much more fun doing it sober. But I was a pioneer in the DJ business, the mobile DJ business out of New York. I lived about 30 miles north of Times Square in White Plains, and I played all of the clubs in the tri-state area and did some road dates in colleges. I had a great time, good run, good 45-year run. But when I got to high school, when I was 15, I went to Catholic school, an all-boys Catholic school in White Plains, Stepinac. And no women, just the secretary in the office was the only female. And when I became a junior, I missed a year of school on and off to have the reconstruction of plastic surgery, bone surgery done on my face. And Stepinac would not let me repeat the year. So I left Stepinac. I went to the public school on the other side of town, White Plains High School. And I really had no identity. So I started lunchtime music in my cafeteria. I played records in the cafeteria. And I would make the announcements for the teachers. And it really caught on. Kids came up and asked for requests, and teachers had me read their announcements. It was a cool, fun time. I had a whole new feeling about myself. When I got out of high school, I went to college at the request of my father. I didn't want to go, but he suggested I go. And there at the college that I went to, there was a defunct radio station that I resurrected and began the DJ thing there and playing college mixers in the bars and the clubs around the tri-state area. Then after college, by the time I got to college, I was drinking every day, around the clock, quart and a half a day, sometimes two. Later on, after I got out of college, the 3 years from the end of college until my last drink, I developed the 2-quart rule. I always had to carry 2 unopened quarts with me in the van. And if I opened one of those 2 quarts, I had to go get another quart because I knew I could blow through them in a day and be out. Part of my symptoms is having the fear of running out of supply. I used alcohol quite like gasoline. If I ran a quart low, I pulled over and filled up. The beginning of the end for me was March of 1969, just before Woodstock, that era. I had a bad week. I had my first car accident. I was picking up a brand new van. I was working for a radio station, and I bought the van from one of the sponsors, and I was leaving the showroom with the brand new van with 6 miles on it, and I hit a parking meter. And it pushed the whole front end of the van in, and it was that way until I was sober about 1.5 years. But that was my first car accident. That week also, I got fired from the radio station, WFAS Radio, and left there. And all at the same time, my parents asked me to move out of the house because I was drinking badly, drunk all the time. And I'm the oldest of 6, so there were 5 younger kids who were looking up to me drinking the way I was drinking, stumbling around, having trouble finding the bathroom. And so that was like the week of the wake-up call, and taking a look at all of this and looking at my drinking, and I realized I was drinking a lot, and it was the first time I saw anything askew about my drinking. So I tried cutting down, and I tried drinking less. And of course, when you're drinking less, you always drink more because you have to make up for the drinking less part to get back up to quota. I got a much better job in radio right away with another drunk guy. And I only lasted there about 3 weeks, and he let me go. And right after that, I opened the newspaper, and the New York Telephone was hiring. And I got a job with them. They were putting in a brand new telephone office, and they needed a lot of people to do the cutover, create new exchanges and new dial tone setups. And I got hired not drinking. I gave up drinking for like 4 days, and I got this job. And I was on the job about 12 days maybe. I'd stopped drinking for about 12 days. And there was a mini walkout. The union walked out. We were all out of work for a couple of days. And that occasion is when I picked up the drink again. It was like I fell off a cliff. And I remember making a subconscious thought conscious. I think, well, what I'll do is just keep drinking all of this stuff until I die and go to the next place that we all go to and see what that's like and start over. And I was drinking to die, not really realizing that I was drinking to die, but I was. And one of my things when I got very drunk, since we're in Tennessee, I was addicted to Southern female accents. So back then, directory assistance was free. So I would call directory assistants all over the South and ask for my name, my street, their city, and listen to the girls try to go nuts trying to figure out how to find me. And during one of these calls, I mentioned that I was a Bell System employee to one of these girls. And that set off the flags and people looking in and figuring out where I was and, what's wrong with this guy, blah, 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 blah. And finally, I got on a 4-day drunk. The day before New Year's Eve, I began drinking a lot, and I had a 4-day I had a New Year's Eve party in my home, and about 400 people passed through my apartment, and they all knew I was a drinking lush, but they were all drug users, so they would bring me a quart from my bar, which at that time was my floor. I sat on the floor so I wouldn't break anything or hurt the supply. And they did drugs, and they left me with about 23 quarts of booze. And in the next 4 days, I drank probably 16 of them and had alcohol left over after this when I came to. Somebody came down from upstairs and read the name off my door and called a lot of people in the phone book and found my family, because what I had in my apartment is I'd stopped using dishes and knives and forks and pots and pans, so the cabinets above my kitchen counter were empty. So I put my stereo in those cabinets, and I had a copy of Led Zeppelin II that skipped for about 4 days. Holonic, 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 holonic. 2 days of that. Way down, way down, way down. 10 hours of that. People in the building thought I was dead, which it was close to it. I think I died on that drunk, and a new person came in and took over. But anyway, they found my sister, who put together a party to come over and rescue me, and they took me home to my father's home. And my father, the doctor, thought I might have done some drugs, which I had not. There was I did not have any drugs that weekend. And the Irish cure is they keep you awake for 24 hours, and then they let you sleep for 24 hours. And then my father took me back to my apartment. And I remembered that I had a job, so I went back to work. I've been missing for 2.5 weeks. They had a big meeting in my honor upon my return, and the big fourth liner put me on final warning. And he said, if you drink, you're out. If you miss any time, you're out. You got yourself into this. You're going to have to get yourself out of this. Leaving that meeting, which was a Wednesday, the limbo between the last drink and the first meeting, leaving that meeting, I met my union delegate, Tipsy. Now, Tipsy was about 5 foot everything, 5 foot tall, 5 feet wide, 5 feet front to back. He weighed about 600 pounds. And he was drunk at 10 minutes after 8. And he had trouble talking when he was that drunk. And he explained to me that if I tried to do something about my drinking, he could protect my job. And he gave me a phone number on an envelope, George, and a phone number. He says, go next door into the long lines and call George and have a talk with George about the drinking. So I did that. I got my ladder, put my cones around my ladder, climbed up into 16 feet off the floor into the private lines, and I plugged my telephone handset, across 2 pair, and I called George. And I got talking to George, and he said to me, are you on a ladder? Yes. I was very good at yes and no. Those were long sentences for me because I was very broken in the noodle. In New York, we call that mocus thinking. He says, you have your cones around your ladder, the safety cones around your ladder? Yes. He goes, good, because I was on that same floor on my ladder with my cones around it, up on the ladder, calling AA. My foreman was at the foot of the ladder with 2 policemen waiting to arrest me when I finished my AA call because I had punched my foreman in the bar across the street in and he talked for like 35 minutes straight through, no breathing. He talked all about blackouts. He talked about the fear of running out of alcohol, about hiding alcohol. I knew I was just like him. I had done everything that he had done, but a newer version, the now version. He was sober probably 23 years then when he 12-stepped me on the phone. At the end of the call, he got me talking about all of the tomfoolery that I was doing at the phone company, the hacking around and blowing up phones and calling numbers, impersonating other people. And he interrupted me. He said, "That's nothing. I lost a telephone pole. A 65-foot pole that was to be cut in half at the site. A cable well, that circular thing that has the cable in it that they tow behind the cherry picker, and the cherry picker. 103 feet of Western Electric equipment never recovered, probably in a river somewhere." My immediate thought was, this guy's cooler than me. I got to do what he tells me. He knows, I don't. So at the end of the call, he says, "I know a lot of guys right in your area. I'll call around and see if I can contact a couple of them and see if I can get you into AA." And that's how it was back in those days. You couldn't walk in with a meeting list or a letter from your lawyer. You had to know somebody who knew somebody in another town, whose parish priest knew somebody in his diocese who was going to meetings, who could set up a 12-step call meet. And Ed did that for me. He found Ed Solomon and the late Ed Solomon, who died sober well over 25 years, and Terry H. Terry Hatarius passed away about 12 years ago. The two of them met me at a diner on Saturday morning. And Ed was hard of hearing, so he yelled a lot. He yelled at me. And he told me his story. The only thing different between what I heard before is Ed's wife kept finding the bottles and spilling them down the toilet. And but everything else was the same. I knew I was just like Ed. And then Terry told me his story. And Terry was the youngest person in AA in our market at that time. And he was 36 and I was 23, so I became the new baby. And he reached across the table and he just put his hand on my wrist and he says, "Just come go with me. We'll go to the meeting tonight. Just come along." And I said, okay. So Ed decided that Terry was still too loopy to drive, so I drove Terry to my first meeting. And it was a Saturday night Hartsdale-Ardsley meeting in Westchester County. I believe it's still there and still active. They walked me up to the front and they introduced me to Vinny. Now, I got a lot of friends on the call tonight who've heard me talk before, who some of them know Vinny from the past. Vinny was a good-looking Sicilian-Italian construction worker, about 260, that olive skin, a little bit shorter than me. And I was about 5'10". He was about 5, maybe 5'6". And he got right up in my face. He had a pinky ring and a cigar that he smoked. He couldn't quite get his finger all the way around the cigar. And the pinky ring, both the same hand. And he would poke me like punctuation. And he got right up in my face and said, "You're not going to drink. And if you ever drink, I'll find out about it." And then another poke. Well, my first thought, without knowing anything, was I wasn't going to drink anywhere around Vinny. So that's the toughest he ever was with me. He said, "Come on," took me back to the coffee urn. Now, I'd seen him in the diners. I'd never worked one. You know, the coffee urn with the glass thing that shows you the level of coffee that's inside the pot. He took a real cup like this, not styrofoam. Styrofoam hadn't been invented yet. Put the cup under the urn. He put maybe 2/3 of a cup in there. He put the first sugar in, first milk, got it all going, stirring. And then he put the second sugar in. And he turned around to me and he said, "Do you see that? Yes. Can you remember that? Yes. That's how I like my coffee. You're going to get my coffee. Everywhere we go, you're going to get my coffee. Can you do that? Parenthesis. I always take a little break here because this is the point where I step out and step into AA. Going to do this, whatever it is, because I made the decision that I could get Vinny's coffee. Close parenthesis. Back to the story. Yes, I can do that. So he says, everywhere we go, I'll look at you and give you the signal. You get my coffee, then I'll show you where to sit, and then eventually I'll sit with you and we'll sit through the meeting. And that's how it went for about the first year. When I had about 3 weeks, Al was new. Al was at his first meeting, and he was sitting in my seat. And I went over to Vinny. Vin. Somebody's sitting in my seat. Vinny said, that's Al. He's at his first meeting. He's good. You sit in my seat, and I'll sit next to you. Oh, well, that was good. I was going to get a chance to sit in Vinny's seat. So Vinny leans across me and introduces me to Al. Al, this is Bill. Bill, this is Al. Me. Hi, Al. How you doing? Good. Vinny says, weren't you just at your first meeting a couple of weeks ago? Yes. So Vinny says, so I say to Al, come on, Al, come on back. This is a coffee urn. You put a cup under the spout and you put maybe 2/3 of a cup in. You get it all going. You put the first milk in, you put the first sugar in. You get it all going, and then you put the second sugar in and let it trickle down. Now, that's how Vinny likes his coffee. There's something to this coffee thing because since I've been getting Vinny's coffee, I haven't had a drink. And now, if I'm never here for some reason, you know how to make the coffee for Vinny. So I think I'm doing a great thing. I take Al back to the seat and I let Vinny know that Al knows how to make your coffee now. Vinny was very upset. Stand up, Vinny. Stand up, right in front of me. He says, you are getting my coffee. Nobody else gets my coffee. Not Al, not somebody else. You. You got that? Yes. Sit down. And that's how it went for the first 18 months, 20 months maybe. When I was sober about just a little bit before my 4th anniversary, I mentioned that I was a DJ. I had a truck full of equipment, a light show, stage, big, huge record collection, big, huge PA system. My van got stolen, Christmas time. 1974. And I took a real hit, took about a $40,000 hit. The current sponsor that I had, that I called right away, met me, took me to police headquarters. We inventoried what was in the van. Nothing was recovered except a hollow van. No wheels, no engine, just the van. I was going to lunchtime meetings at Sponsor House. My White Plains people know Sponsor House. Still up and running. And Marianne was the person that ran Sponsor House back in the day. And she pulled me aside during the coffee break. And she said, I just need to point something out to you. You've been really rocked by this van thing. It's going to be a race now between you writing your 4th step down on paper in your own handwriting or drinking. So I suggest you go home and you start writing your 4th step. And that's what I did. I wrote my 4th step autobiography, had it done in 2 days, brought it back to Sponsor House, gave it to Marianne. She looked at it, put it in her drawer. That's as far as it got. I was stuck there post 4th step for many years. And I've had 3 other step sponsors in my path, if you will. Then at 25 years sober, I realized that the volume of the music was beginning to jangle me inside because I really hadn't been away from the music for any more than 4 or 5 days in 30 years. So I decided to take a year off, sold the house, moved to California, bought a little motorhome, began to read my AA literature and get quiet and not be around loudness. And I had a couple major spiritual experiences out there. I went to a Cursillo retreat, and I was altered by the men at the Cursillo retreat who really talked all about love. And the other Cursillo retreats would fax us their congratulation letters that we're praying for you from Beloit, Wisconsin. And they named the names and the people that were praying for us. And right after that first fax came in, I lost it. There's thousands of people praying for me to have success on this Cursillo. Unconditional love again, back from the first meeting when I experienced unconditional love. And something shifted inside me during that time. And 4 months later, I met Forrest, who I had 24 years. He had, I think he had 11 years. But I experienced the great power of example, which is in the second step. When I got to California, I went to meetings and I saw Forrest and his best friend, Robert, standing back by the coffee urn, very loud, very boisterous, joking around, picking on the newcomers. They were the big anniversary speakers anywhere around the San Francisco Bay Area. If you had a dinner, you could get them to come and speak. Then I hopped on a plane and went out to visit my longtime friend, John Gillen, in Hawaii, who's just passed away. And he taught me how to be quiet, not think, slow down, be quiet until I could hear the waves, because Kauai is an island and the water hits the side of this island. Anywhere you go, you can hear the waves if you're quiet inside. And I came back from that experience, and these two guys, Forrest and Robert, were different. They got a different sponsor. They went through the fourth step. They went through the seventh step. They went through the ninth step. They were different people. I was only gone 2 months. So I asked Forrest to sponsor me, and he took me through the steps. My first meeting with him was him assuring me that we would go all the way through the steps and not leave anything out. He goes, here's what I can give you. I know you're sober a long time. I know you've worked the steps, but your sober recovery is incomplete. So we use the battle cry, all, everything, thorough, complete. I read him my fourth step, and he made a list of my defects of character. That had never happened to me before. I was given the list, which I have in my folder here, my AA folder, the original list. And my job was to go home and look up the words in the dictionary and handwrite them out. I had 23 of them. And that would be used in the next step, in my seventh step, in an attitude of prayer, asking God to remove each individual defect, and then repeating the definition that I found and learned out loud in my own voice, all alone in my living room in my little mobile home. And that took a month. And my sponsor was on the road. And I called his sponsor, and his sponsor told me, just keep doing it. You know, eventually you and Forrest will get together and meet up and figure out what's next. So I went 51 days or 52 days, I'm not sure. He called me, come on down. I went to the house. We took a look at my eighth step. And he says, you've been in AA a long time. I'm sure you've written 8 steps. And he said, is there anybody on these step lists that you haven't made amends to? I said, yeah, the number one guy. He says, tell me about him. I'll tell you about him. His name was Kevin. He had the biggest rock band in my market. He played all the clubs that I played in, different nights. He was my first booking agent. He got me work. Eventually, he became interested in what I did, and he began to hire me and bring me along to play his band breaks on the road. And he introduced me to the music business and how to get along with club owners, and a real mentor, a real hero, somebody I looked up to. But I judged him. I resented him. I had envy towards his work. I had jealousy towards my work, trying to be as good as Kevin. I gossiped about him, and I had fear. All up and running pulling. Now, there's a great fallacy in AA about working on one defective character. Nope. Usually 7, 8, 9 of them pulling at me at the same time. Triggered by one, my biggest defective character is judgmentalness, which really is not talked about at all in AA, but that's my biggest defective character. Judge people and then resenting them, and it ticks off all the other things that I just mentioned. And I said to Forrest that every sponsor that I've had has said, just leave him alone. Cross him off your list. That's your amends. Just stay out of his life. Leave him alone. So Forrest said to me, well, screw that. You have until tomorrow night at midnight to find him and make amends to him, even if you have to fly to New York from San Francisco. And my attitude at that time is I was growing. Whatever Forrest says, I will do. I said, okay. He says, you want to know why? I go, yeah. He said, do you know where he is right now? I said, yeah. He owns a nightclub. He's probably behind the bar, tending bar. I have all his phone numbers, the car phones and the private phones, and the ex-wife's phone and the new girlfriend's phone, and the cell phones in the cars. And he goes, you see? No, I'm missing something here. You're dragging him around with you. When was the last time you saw him? 35 years ago. So you're going to make amends to him, and this is what you're going to say. Again, write this down. And basically what I just said to you. I've judged you. I've resented you. I have envy. I have jealousy. I'm always procrastinating. I have fear. I can feel the fear in my gut. And I gossip about you. And if any of this has gotten back to you, I hope to be forgiven. How can I help? Well, I got him on the phone later that night and said all that to him. And he says, well, you were a pain in the ass, but you were helpful. So we got talking about Jerry Garcia, going back out on the road with the Grateful Dead. And he died shortly after withdrawing from alcohol. And he says, okay, if you're ever back in New York, come up to the club. And I go, done. Click. Done. Took my alarm off. I'm not flying to New York. I don't have to get up tomorrow. I'm going to sleep in. Forrest called me about 6:30 in the morning. Well, did you get him? Yeah. Got off the phone with him about 4:30. Did you make the amends? Yep. You done? Yep. Okay, now there's another batch of people on this new written 8-step list. The tour people, the tour speakers that go around and speak at the conferences. Clancy and Johnny and Ray O'Keefe and Keith Lewis. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Keith Lewis. He's gone quite a while now. Keith Drum out of Yorba Linda. About 6 people. And he says, okay, you got to pick one of them, one of the West Coast guys. Who are you going to go to? Johnny Harris. He's down in Long Beach. He said, same question. Do you know where he is? You go, yeah. I know he goes to the Bellflower Group in Long Beach tonight, Monday night. He goes, good. You got about a 5.5 hour drive, and you can go to the diner and get a nice meal and go out to the meal. Click. I drive down, get the meal, go out. Johnny's in the front row. I go in, wait for the break, pull him out of the meeting. I need to make amends to you. Remember back in the Unity breakfast when I would pick you up at the airport and get you to Wingfoot and buy you your golf balls and all that stuff? I judged you and I resented you, and I had envy and I had jealousy and I gossip about you because I could tell a story as good as he could, that type of arrogance. And that's another one, arrogance. So he said to me, you got a good sponsor. Keep doing what you're doing. And I can feel that judgmentalness and fear and stuff when people come to pick me up at the airports for the conventions. I know exactly what you're talking about. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing really good. Now, that changed my relationship with him. He would come up to San Ramon, and he had a lot of sponsees who play golf, and they would have a golf day, and then they would have a little dinner, and then he would speak. And I would always sit on the side. Remember now, I've made amends to him. And I'm there, I'm sitting on the side, and he comes in, and, oh, Johnny's here. Oh, Johnny, touch my chip. And when all that was over, he would come over and sit with me. Not to talk or anything, just, how you doing? Quiet. Spend maybe 10 minutes together. He and I had a friend in common, Vince Hughes from Burlingame. Johnny and Vince had served time together in one of the maximum security federal prisons in California. So they had history, and I had history with Vince, and Vince was not doing well at that time. That type of stuff changed the dynamic of the relationship. The men's does that for me, changes everything. On one of my early lists, when I was 20, right after the surgery had been done, I got hit across the bridge of my nose with a baseball bat. A kid was playing stickball, and he swung, and the bat flew and hit me across the bridge of my nose. And I wanted to get this kid. I wanted to torture this kid. I didn't want to kill him. I just wanted to keep him alive to torture him. And I jumped up all sorts of terrible things that I could do to him. And I put him on the list. Anonymous. Never knew what it was. Anonymous. The bat kid. Hit me in the face with the bat. Willing to make amends. Figuring I'd never meet him or figure out how to find him. That Saturday, my brother was bowling at Post Bowling in White Plains. And my other brother came in, and the three of us were bowling. And then one of my brother's friends joined us to be a fourth. So we had two teams, so we could do beer frames and all the drinking that goes with that. I'm not drinking, so I get 75 cents if I get a beer frame. And we're bowling about 10 minutes, and my brother leans over to me and says, this is the kid that threw the bat. He's nervous. So I faked it for about another 5 minutes, and I said, let's go talk. And I sat him down, and I talked about AA. I talked about the list. He's on the list. I've hated you. I've had a lot of fear thinking about you. I've wanted revenge. This is all not good stuff, and I owe you an amends. And he said, wait a minute, wait. I hit you with a baseball bat, and you're making amends to me. I go, yeah. It's my side. It's for me to be able to be in your presence in the future. Kind of like what I just explained about Johnny, the parenthesis, being able to be with Johnny after I made amends. And we had a good laugh, and we told stories about my brothers, and we went back bowling. That kid is not on my brain anymore. That got removed. The only time I visit that is when I'm doing this. 10th step. I do a written 10th step. I keep the card in my wallet with the money. That was my instruction from Forrest. I edit it. I take stuff off. I put stuff on. It's an ongoing 10-step card. It's an index card folded in half. I also do the spot check when I feel a little off or a little upset. I have to stop. And Forrest gave me a drill. It's the wait a minute drill. Wait a minute. Out loud in my own voice. Wait a minute. What is this? And that interrupts the thinking of the ego. And then I can be present figure out what the defects are and then ask God to remove them. And they get removed every time I ask. So the 10th step is very valuable to me because it clears the deck for me to be able to do 11. Saw it through prayer and medication. See, I used to say that all the time. Prayer and medication. Somebody pointed out early that it's not medication, it's meditation. Oh, I said that a lot when I was there. Oh, meditation. Saw it through prayer and meditation to improve my contact with my higher power, praying only for the knowledge of his will and the power to carry that out. So he gives me the power here to tell my story in baby talk so newcomers and confused people can hear it and understand it. I remember when I made amends to O'Keefe, I said, how do I get to speak at the big 1,000 people meetings like you speak at? He goes, you're much better one-on-one. I've seen you with new people, especially young people, one-on-one. When you're talking to them, they're leaning in. So leave the big game to me. You take care of the guys one at a time. Now, he taught me about money. We started a Unity breakfast, which has just revived itself the past couple of months in Westchester County at the Rye-Town Hilton. And he came up to me one night at the men's meeting Monday night and he says, give me a 20. Bang, 20 off the roll. Boom. I go, what's that for? He goes, you are the first sponsor of the Unity Breakfast. What do I get? A handshake. Give me a shake of hand. He goes, so now that you've given me a 20, I can go around to everybody else and tell them that you gave me a 20, give me a 20. And that's how he got his money together, the little kitty, to pay for the plane ticket and the room and get the speaker his golf game at Wingfoot and meals. And at the end of the breakfast, we would sit up front, right in front of the podium with the folder, and he would write checks to all of our local city stuff like the Halfway House, Sponsor House. There was Veritas Villa. There's a couple other places, one that takes care of the cops and the priests. I wrote 5 or 6 checks and gave all the money away so we'd be at zero again until the next breakfast. We did 2 of those a year for probably 24, 25 years. And I learned a lot from Raymond. He taught me a lot about money. He taught me a lot about meditation. He taught me about the Our Father. You should get to Emmett Fox's book called Sermon on the Mount and read the back of the book, taking apart the Our Father verse by verse. It's a great way to start your 11-step meditations. I did that, and that's part of my walk. I have a house meeting in my house here with my wonderful wife, who's also on the call. We read spiritual literature, and Sermon on the Mount, Emmett Fox, Joel Goldsmith, Neil Donald Walsh, Wayne Dyer. There's a plethora, big word, plethora of authors that fall into that spiritual list of people we read. And the 12th step is this right here. The cool thing about the 12th step is you can talk about it both ways. You can talk about how you were 12-stepped, and you can talk about 12-step calls that you've been on. I've been on some doozies. The one that's closest is my wife's sister lived in Plano, Texas, which is just outside of Dallas, Fort Worth, the airport there. And she was in bad shape. She was drinking. She was using psychotropics, prescribed, of course, illegal, but misusing them. And the other sister showed up at my house and said, pack a bag. We're going to Dallas. We're going to go get her. We're on a plane down to Dallas. We were there a week. We closed the house down. We contacted the ex-husband who took the son, and we brought her back here. And we got her to go to meetings, and she was well on her way. About 2 years, she was doing very well. Great results from that 12-step call. And there's a lot of others that I could entertain you with at some other time. But it's me, having been through everything, being willing to talk about my experiences with people who haven't gone through it yet and make it believable and doable. And anybody that's new, you can do this. It begins with the drinking ending. Nothing happens until you put the plug in the jug and you stop the drinking. Right, Mike? That's where it starts. Put the plug in the jug. I don't hear it much, but it's don't drink and go to the meetings and pray in that order. Don't mess with the order. And the other thing that makes the step work really good is halt. Can't be hungry. You can't be angry. You can't be lonely. You can't be tired. And the H in that word for me also is the horny word, because I was addicted to pornography, a very expensive pornography addiction that I was able to back out of with Vince Hughes' help on the West Coast and Robert's help on the West Coast. And that was another major addiction that I had to keep in check until I got comfortable with it. And the 12-step brings us right back to the beginning. So, Stephen, is that enough? Is that good?
Good. Thank you very much, Bill. Appreciate you. Thanks for coming in and sharing with us.